Chris. I'll be your host for the day. We've got Bloom on today. I know you guys have a lot of interesting stuff going on. It's hard to all label it into one category, I know, but all around helping individuals make money is what it seems like from the outside. I mean, we'll talk a little bit more about your vision and what you are truly trying to accomplish. But everyone here, thank you guys for coming in. We're gonna have a good chat today, but we do start things off a little bit differently, Patrick. The biggest piece is I want to go through a couple questions. I think it's super important to get to know the team a little bit even more so than the project at first, just because, I mean, if you think about it, you see somebody super successful and they came into the crypto space and ran a project, you'd probably have a little faith that there was, there was something going on behind the scenes. So I want to chat with you just a couple quick questions, just a little rapid fire on thoughts and that kind of thing.
Sure.
Awesome. So first up, and this is something we've been asking a lot the past couple weeks, and I think this past week kind of shows why. What if you had to pick top 10 coins, you had $10,000, what would you put your money into?
Wow. For me right now, it's about preservation of capital. So I would be looking at things like, the upper tier in terms of putting things into Ethereum, maybe Avalanche, things like that, where nothing that's too much of a game. Or but there are some other interesting projects that always deem attention. So I like to have a mix of I'd say 80% stable or more,
Okay.
And then play with some, let's just call them degenerate projects. Right.
Awesome. Okay, so next one we got. Do you think that we're gonna go into another run coming up towards the beginning of next year, or maybe towards the end to into 2024?
Great question. I was talking about this with some people recently, and my take on it is that it's going to be about Q3, Q4 next year. So just after halfway of next year, that we're going to be seeing another run.
Gotcha. So similar to like the last run, where it kind of kicks off towards, October-ish,
Exactly.
September, October time. Got it.
Yeah, exactly.
Gotcha. Yeah, there's a lot of interesting thought about that. It's hard to say for sure. I do think with everything going on, it's hard to see things turning up. But I don't think we're going like, and I've been saying this for a couple weeks. I don't think we're going a crazy amount lower. I think the lows that we hit initially, I mean, they're still lower than we are now, right? Right. So I
Yeah.
think the lows we initially hit are at the bottom, if not like right around there.
And one of the things is we have to look at this from a long-term perspective, and that a lot of us, including me, would love to get rich overnight, right? But I don't think it's going to happen in the next couple of months.
Mhm.
Who knows? We always keep trying. But when we look at it from the perspective of, is crypto here to stay? Absolutely. And how many people realize it's here to stay? I would be surprised if the number was that high. And I think all of us who are on this call today should consider ourselves lucky and fortunate that we're in this early. So when we think about it, is it going to be next year, or how is the timing going to be? Who knows? Right. I just look at it from the perspective that we're all in this really early.
Yeah, I love it. I think that's super important as well. I mean, I was talking and I brought this up yesterday, so a couple people might have already heard this, but I was talking to a buddy of mine that is not at all involved in the crypto space, right? And I was like, hey, just for context, I want to hear, like, what have you heard? Like, what is somebody, because we're involved in this all day, every single day, right? So it's like, it's really hard to distance yourself and realize what people are hearing about it. And I was like, what have you heard about? I mean, even just, let's just talk, SEC. What have you heard? He's like, not a single thing, right? Not like literally like nothing. And it's not like he's avoiding news. I mean, I'm sure he's not digging into all the financial side of things in general, but that's a majority of people that aren't, right? That don't do this
Yeah.
for a good portion of their day every day. And it's kind of crazy. Like, you're so far into it, and sometimes you lose sight of the fact that most people aren't in this place.
Well, it's also that people are not going to understand the capabilities with
Hmm.
the technology.
Yeah.
Like when you look at Bitcoin, its particular capability is minuscule to what you can do on Ethereum
Hmm.
or Avalanche or other chains. So we really have to look at the fact that the technology itself is maturing, but
Hmm.
the opportunities are tremendous.
Yeah, I 100% agree. I mean, even comparing now Ethereum and AVAX and, to Matic, and then comparing Matic to something like Constellation Network or the, Hedera, so HBAR, and what it can accomplish. It's like you continuously see the building going on behind the scenes, but most people don't
Yeah.
see it because there's no product yet, right? Like, really, what can we use crypto for aside from making money right now? I mean, there's a couple games, there's some NFT, like there's some cool stuff, but it's nothing that everyone's gonna have a truly uh what's the word?
Innovative.
Innovative. That it's like a inherent value add. I think is
Yeah.
like
Well,
there isn't real value.
it's funny because the way that I look at it is that, and this is, could be um, I don't have much to back this viewpoint, but
Hmm.
the way that I see this is that in 10 to 15 years, there isn't going to be a bank or large financial institution which isn't implementing cryptocurrency in some way or another.
Hmm.
So, and if you look at it today, with how many banks or large financial institutions are playing with crypto, it's tiny,
Yeah.
right? But they're going to everyone is going to in that area in terms of the finance area is going to be jumping on cryptocurrencies, or I would say more so blockchain technology
Yeah.
than than cryptocurrency. But the I see most financial institutions are going to be utilizing blockchain technology in some way or another, and then in 10 years down the road.
Most businesses will. Like it wouldn't make
Yes.
sense not to, right? Like why even I mean, let's just look at payments, for example, is a big thing. Like you have a ton of fees as a business. There's a ton of fees that are taken off the top of automating something like, having something like Stripe, just a payment processor. Now imagine
Yeah.
taking all those fees out. It would justify spending 10 grand up front to get all those fees out for any kind of business, right? Or almost any kind of business. Because those add up. Even after a year, I mean, it can easily add up to
Yeah.
more than that. So,
And you're absolutely right. It's the efficiencies that
hmm,
that you're looking at. It's that,
instant.
yeah, when you look at it as typical investment house or brokerage or mutual fund trading, there's opportunities within each one of those for
Yeah.
um, blockchain technology to increase their efficiency like head over heels. So they're going to be saving a lot of money. So
Hmm.
that's why I say that in 10 years down the road, they'll all be either implementing it or looking at it.
Yeah. I definitely agree. I definitely agree. It's super interesting stuff. That's for sure.
Yeah,
And then, yeah, the last little bit. Are you more into layer ones or layer twos, and why?
it's a good question. Um, I would say, the majority of my investment is in layer ones. The majority of my interest is in layer twos,
Perfect.
right? It's
Yep.
the layer two stuff, I think, is where we're going to see some innovation. And the innovation is a little bit more possible, but it's the layer one stuff which I think is going to hold the value. Uh, it's a safe bet. I'm old. That's why I say that it's a safe bet, right? So,
That's great. That's great. I'm old. That's why I say that. That's awesome. Um,
well, it's
I
yeah,
understand it. I
yeah,
understand it. It's just it's a funny comment. We're in crypto. It's a safe bet. Like
yeah, it's
um
true.
but yeah, I know. I love those answers. It's been really good. So now let's branch a little bit further into your background. If you want to touch up a little bit, give a quick intro on who you are and where you came from.
Sure. So, I originally have a degree in software development and was a software developer for a number of years, but then I found my way into IT sales, and I spent the last 20 years in enterprise IT sales. So that's sales to large organizations,
Hmm.
And it's it's a complex role, but it's I find that crypto piqued my interest as well.
Gotcha. Gotcha. Awesome. And so, do you kind of moving from sales? Do you find like a lot of the web development skills are applicable into what you're doing on the team now?
Uh, it's I actually find there's more from my role. What's more applicable is that it's around the whole idea of just managing the team
Hmm.
and managing the goals. I'm managing the objectives, keeping a level head, and not having and just trying to build something everything from a maturity perspective. It's not easy, you know. It looks on the surface, you can build a website and launch a token within a couple of days. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? It's not that's not difficult, but to do it right and to do it with a sense of long-term vision and focus, and then to have everybody on board and then build consensus, um, it's not easy. And I find that most of the overlap in the skill where it was necessary was in what I would call change management and really herding the cats and understanding leadership principles.
Hmm. Gotcha. I think those are very misrepresented things in the crypto space right now. Like
Yeah.
it's super fascinating actually, like that you point that out, because I think a big problem with DeFi as a whole is that a lot of people that are creating projects in DeFi don't have any business experience. And I mean, that goes for us as well. Like, we're all young here at Cardinal House. At the same time, there are people that are handling a very, very, very large amount of money that don't have any prior experience in business. And it's
Well,
just because you can raise funds doesn't mean you know how to manage the actual revenue production and all that kind of stuff, whether it be just
yeah,
running even a successful business model. Sorry, keep go for it.
no, no, that's okay. What you're saying is, I got excited about a point. That's all.
No, yeah, go for it.
Yeah. So look what happened with FTX. We have a
Yeah.
30-year-old guy who wears shorts in most of his pictures, shorts and t-shirts. Where okay, that's fine, but we have a 30-year-old guy here who's running a billion-dollar company. Um, it's I'm not saying that we shouldn't support him. I'm not saying that we shouldn't give him a try, but I wonder how many people he brought in on the side of him to help mentor him, right? Because
Hmm.
experience pays off, and what I find the most successful people are doing is that they're bringing in the right people to make sure that they're mentored appropriately
Yeah.
when they have questions or when they run into small issues or so forth. So it's really, you know, if one comes to, could FTX have a different outcome if it was led by somebody else? Or if
Hmm.
there was some type of governance structure in there which would allow for different decision making. Who knows,
Yeah. Yeah,
right?
I think the tough part is all these I mean, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think the tough part is when you have this extreme volatility, right? There's a bunch of over leveraged positions, and it's a relatively uncharted territory as far as how fast this is growing and how much money there is that is actually being gambled with a large industry. Like it is relatively uncharted, because even if you look at
Yeah,
different currencies, I mean, it's a little bit more stable. They've been around for a lot longer. Well, most of the things are priced in, but with crypto,
yeah.
it's
And
totally new.
yeah, and I like the way that you phrased that, where you said the amounts of money's being gambled, because instead of in in the traditional finance world, people would say invested, but at the end
Yeah.
of the day, it's the same thing,
Mhm.
right? It's just what I find the crypto world is just it's much more honest, right? Than the game playing of the traditional finances. So, but I like the way that you phrased that, and I agree with your point.
I appreciate that. I don't know if that was intentional. I may have called it invested in another situation. That is very possible, but I don't know. It is tougher because there is a lot of money being thrown around, and
Yes.
with some things, it is definitely being more of a gamble than an investment. That is for certain.
Yeah, yeah, and if we look at the amount of money which is being thrown around, and then we just dovetail back to the beginning of the conversation of how little penetration the DeFi world has actually had,
Yeah.
right? It just that alone will show that if there's any type of growth, the growth is huge,
Yeah.
right? So
That's
there's so much potential.
That's actually so interesting too, because we're comparing this to things like the internet and sizes of companies now. But for most companies, you didn't have people that could get in this early. So it'll be very, very interesting to see as you start getting, just individuals across the world that are investing into these companies, seeing the buy-in that they have behind the brand and behind what these companies do. I'm actually curious to see the social aspect of things about that as
Hmm.
well. That's super fascinating. Um, but yeah, let's move on a little bit so we can touch a little bit on Bloom here. I want to hear firstly, let's just start off with your vision. Like what is Bloom? If you could describe it in, one sentence that you wanted everyone to understand, if people were left with one message at the end of this, what would that be?
Uh, Bloom is a long-term financial investment that will leverage cryptocurrencies to be able to pay the holders dividends.
Awesome. Awesome. And then
Yeah.
moving from that, how is this being done? Or maybe go into a little more detail what you mean by
Yeah,
that.
no, no, absolutely. So it's look, I'll just take a step back. It's that when we started this, we were sitting there in the node space, in the node world. I would say, what is it, coming upon a year from now, a year ago, where there was lots of ohm and ohm forks and lots of node projects floating around where people can make lots of money off of. And we're looking at those and we're saying, look, the tokenomics of these projects, they're kind of they're questionable. And I don't want to use the word Ponzi too much, right? Because it could be offensive to some. But a lot of these were built from a Ponzi perspective, and we said, okay, how could we try our best to capture the excitement of what these current projects are promising, but at the same time actually have a sustainable payout or a sustainable way of operating, such that we're still around in a year, 2 years, 5 years from now.
Mhm.
So the project really became about when we were trying to think of a way to make things sustainable. So we talk a lot about sustainability in DeFi, but the proof is, well, how are you going to do that? And the way that we're doing it, particularly with Bloom, is that first of all, we're going to have we have a bit of a treasury, and we want to grow it more. Um, we're going to grow the treasury and then invest a treasury in a typical how you do a hedge fund or fund management process. But what we're going to be doing is developing technologies along the way that are going to help our project and also help other projects that are in the DeFi space. And these products that we're going to build, and we have about 4 or 5, possibly more on the radar. But these products
Mhm.
that we're going to build, the intent behind it is that we license or sell these products, and the revenue which is made from these products are what we use to pay out the dividends. So it's
Gotcha.
a longer term focus, but what we're looking at here is that that's how we can see where we can see sustainable growth.
Mhm. Gotcha. That's very interesting. So let me make sure I got this right. So you guys are making investments into plays using some of those funds to create these products, and then revenue from the products is what goes to pay out. Is that
Uh,
correct?
but yes, in a way, yes, yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Did I
The
miss a piece there?
Yeah, there's we're going to do our best to find ways to pay out as much and as quick as possible. So if the treasury shows some good return on investment, we'll pull from that as well. There's multiple ways on which we can fund the dividends. So it's a
Gotcha.
question of, yeah, it's a question of how do we balance that? And ultimately, what we're going to be doing, and this is going to take a while to mature. So you won't see too much of this in the beginning. Ultimately, what we're going to be doing is running this in a DAO manner that the community or a group of the community will be making decisions in terms of how much of a dividend to pay out, and or what to do with the profits, and or how to reinvest them and so forth. So it is going to be a community driven coin in the future.
Gotcha. Gotcha. Okay. Very, very interesting. And so, how much leeway are you giving the community once the DAO comes out as far as picking investments, products, that kind of thing?
That's a really good question. One of the things that we're going to be doing is developing a governance structure, a new type of governance structure in DeFi that will allow us to have certain controls that uh, may or may not have been represented before. And what I mean by this is that there's actually a formal process where anybody in the community can say, hey, I would vote for this change, or I want so and so to happen. And then we have a review committee, which will review that and say, is it a sensible vote for it to go forward? And if so, then we'll push that vote forward. And then if the result of the vote also has to be ratified, meaning that the developers or whoever needs to change things need to look at it and say, is that actually possible? Right? And if it's not possible, then we have to look at some type of an amendment as well. And that's all governed by a process that has both community members and team members involved in it. So, it's a detailed workflow, let's say, but at the end of the day, what that's going to do is that it's going to allow for balance in the decision making, and balance within the community in terms of uh, what what comes out of the process. So I wouldn't say it's not going to be DAO like in the sense that it's 100% automated, because this is one of the things that we're doing is we're building a solution to capture all of this, and we're building a solution that's going to look at all of these and say, okay, where are you in the step? Who's voted on what? Has this thing's been voted for before? And it's really a solution that will soup to nuts take care of this. And this is, I think, the governance model that a lot of tokens are looking for. And this is the type of thing that we're going to be selling to other people as well. So we're going to use our token to develop a governance model framework that eventually we would like to sell to other tokens as well.
Gotcha. 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 So there will be two separate kind of uh ways to get involved. Am I hearing that
Yes.
right? Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Interesting.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay.
It's. I know I didn't do it a complete justice, but it seems like a complex process to start. But once you get involved with it, you'll be like, okay, this makes sense. It's
Yeah.
actually, I hate to say it, but it's actually modeled on the way that a lot of governments work today, right? So when you have like Senate and voting population and so forth, but it makes sense when you write it all out.
Gotcha. Gotcha. Yeah, you guys have a very interesting model. I assume that like describing it to people for the first time is like the toughest barrier though, huh?
Yeah, it often is because it also that while we're working on it and envisioning it, and this is just the governance framework is still in the envisioning phase.
Hmm.
So we haven't written any code for it yet, but we're sitting there with ideas and concepts, and then we have some wireframes written up. But you're right. The toughest thing is describing this to people. Um,
Yeah.
Chris, I noticed that there's some questions. Should we get to those, or how do you guys run that?
Yeah, yeah. We usually run it as we kind of go through. I'll start reading them off as we
Sure.
go. I can start right now if you'd like. Um, yeah, we can get through some of these. Let's see. So going back, Let me find the beginning. What Austin was asking, what is Bloom investing in that is tougher to personally invest? So what is Bloom invest in that I personally cannot? And then does payout start right away from launch?
So to answer the first question, the payouts does not start right away from launch. We're targeting around Q1 or Q2 next year for our first payout. And I'm going to be blunt, it's not going to be much because we're just building things up. I would love to be able to afford to pay out a huge amount, but the bottom line is we got to build. And what can to answer the question of what are we going to be investing in that other people can't personally, that's it's tough to say right now. Um, there one of the things that we're promised ourselves is not to limit what we want to invest in, and we don't necessarily have a plan right now with respect to how we're going to be investing the how to say this how to invest in the stuff that other people can't invest in. But what we do have is a very mature strategy with respect to how we're going to be investing the treasury for preservation purposes. And it mostly deals with, stable coins and watching the market.
Gotcha. Okay, it definitely makes sense. I understand where the thought process. I know you followed up with like the reason a lot of people invest in these hedge funds, and this would be a very, very real thing, I think, just in general that most people would have as a consideration. But a lot of people invest in hedge funds mostly because they trust trust the people running the hedge fund to do something good with their money. They don't want to pay attention to the money. They want to be able to leave it and trust that, hey,
Exactly.
this is the most experienced person for the job. Do you think there's going to be any complications as far as running the DAO side with that? Because everybody has opinions, right? If they're given the option, they're going to vote, but not everyone is as experienced as the person next to them.
There's an interesting that's a really interesting question and something that we have put a lot of thought into. One of the ways that we're going to be managing this is that
Mhm.
the DAO is only going to be able to make investment decisions based on categories.
Okay.
Um, and what we're going to be doing is there's a category mix where you can have stables, L1s, L2s, degenerate projects. I don't know what else the categorization's done, but I just don't have it memorized. Um, so there's going to be categories. And then there's going to be something called a category mix, which is what percentage of the treasury should be invested into each area. So
Hmm.
there's the categories, the category mix. And then once you get into the actual each one of the categories, then it's particularly what are you invested into. So one of the ways that we offset kind of the risk of the DAO making silly decisions is that the categories are going to have to be voted on as well, or can be voted on as well. So you could vote on to change the categories. You can vote on to change the category percentages, as well as vote on what it is that people are investing into. So it's a
Gotcha.
3-step process. And we believe that the 3-step process would de-risk any type of crazy vote from the DAO.
Hmm.
And
Gotcha.
there's also veto control to in the case where something really ridiculous pops up for some funky reason.
Do you have an example
Um,
of something like that that would be like, hey, this is just too far out
you
there?
know, there's I'm trying to remember the exact details, but a few months ago, there was a DAO project that somebody said that what they wanted, they put in a vote that all of the money should go into one particular token. And then they voted into that, and then that token rugged and it killed the project. But it turned out that some of the people that were leading the project, some of the people that were leading the vote were
Mm,
running that project, were started that project which rugged. So
interesting.
it was just their way of ripping off the DAO, right? So
Gotcha.
in an example where someone says, "Hey, let's put all our eggs into this one basket," right? From
Hmm.
a maturity, from a certain perspective, you're just not going to allow that to happen, because you have the categories and the category percentages. You would have to first change all of the categories. You would then have to change the category percentages, and then you would then have to say that let's put everything all into one. And it kind of, when you look at it from that breakdown, it wouldn't make sense. How they got away with that initially in the example that I was talking about, I'm surprised that it happened, but what I think came out of it is there just wasn't enough people voting,
Yeah.
right? So there's going to have to be some type of we have a control on there to say that um, there's a minimum vote count as well based off the population, that if it doesn't, regardless of if it's a majority vote or not, if it doesn't hit a certain percentage of the voting population, it doesn't apply.
Gotcha. So really, like what the and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but this is just what it sounds like. So to me, it sounds like people are putting money in. That money is being invested. And this is more of a way to say, hey, we can launch this now. Your assets aren't going to just a degen project that is going to develop X product with very little funds because the time it is. But in order to actually raise those funds, we'll put it into some more stable crypto assets, most likely, unless you guys are kind of open to any kind of play. Um, but you're going to put it into some assets as the next run hits, funds are generated. With that treasury, depending on how it does, you'll have the funds for the product that you guys are actually trying to build. Is that the right idea that I'm getting?
Yeah, absolutely. I would just clarify that instead of
Hmm.
product, it's products.
Products. Okay.
There's a suite of them, right?
Gotcha.
And it's also that there will be some development regardless of we're going to be developing
Hmm.
regardless of the performance of the treasury.
Gotcha.
Um,
And can I
so
ask what
yeah.
what products they are? What kind of products they are?
Yeah, absolutely. So, first of all, we have that token governance solution that we talked about. And then the other one is there's a token metric solution. So, when you're sitting there and operating a product like a DeFi project, you're asking yourself, okay, should we do an AMA? Should we tweet something? Should we be putting something on LinkedIn?
Hmm.
And the list goes on things that you can do to promote it. But one of the things which tokens don't have is the way of measuring what their outcome was based on a particular investment into social media or a particular marketing investment. So what we're going to be doing is developing a solution this is just called a token metric solution, that allows for the owners of the token to measure the effectiveness of each one of their particular touch points or outcomes. So, if we had the product today, what we'd be able to do is to say, okay, we did this AMA. Um, how many people after the AMA, I can't say exactly how many people, but did the traffic to Twitter, the traffic to our website, the traffic to our Discord, did all of that increase or decrease as a result of the AMA?
Hmm.
What was the overall outcome? And then eventually, what you can do is build metrics out of that, or indicators
Yeah.
that really look at the indications of your performances.
So marketing
So
analytics tracker, essentially based on
exactly,
social media platforms.
exactly. That's
Gotcha.
that's
Gotcha.
that's that's the whole thing. And that's also, we're also looking at ways of how can you incorporate this data into communications to your audience, to your community, to help incentivize them further as well. So there's many ways in that how that solution can be utilized. Another solution that we're going to be releasing, well, not releasing, another solution that we're going to be targeting to release is that it's an OTC swap, an over-the-counter swap. So I find that lots of times that there are a few that exist. They're not necessarily decentralized enough for my preference, but the whole idea of this is that each token has there's whales, and when
Hmm.
whales go to sell, people are worried, right?
Mhm.
But it would be really nice if you could offer a way for people to sell their tokens. Here, let me take this a step back. I'm going down
Yeah.
the wrong hole on this one.
It's all good.
So yeah, so it's essentially what the OTC swaps. It allows you to trade tokens with another person, one-on-one, peer-to-peer, without having to worry about trust,
Like a
right? So
marketplace of sorts.
yeah, exactly. It's the way that you do OpenSea does NFT trading,
Mhm.
right? But it's really for just tokens. So, for example, if you and I agreed that we're going to trade 1 million Bloom tokens, right? If
Mhm.
and you're going to give me, let's say, 1 Bitcoin, and I'll give you 1 million Bloom tokens. Uh, there's always going to be a process where you say, okay, I'm going to give you the Bitcoin, and then I'm going to send you the tokens. But somebody has to go first, and you always have that trouble that someone's going to run away with it. That you send me the Bitcoin, and then I don't respond, right? So
Yeah. Yeah.
um,
You're being a
what
third
this
party.
exactly? So it's
Yeah.
just it's an escrow
Mhm.
essentially, right? So
I
what
really
this
like that.
is yeah, it's an escrow service that will allow people to do peer-to-peer swaps without and in a decentralized manner, and it's trustless. So you don't have to trust the other person for the thing for the thing to work and for you to not get ripped off.
Yeah. No, I really like that. That sounds awesome. Would it work with any token, any chain,
So
or
the yes, the vision is that for it to work with any chain or any token. But what we're going to be doing is rolling it out to friends and partners first. For example, we'll probably come knocking on your door and saying, "Hey, would Cardinal House like to use this service?" Um, and we can then put the tokens that you'd like on there.
Mhm.
But the bottom line is that what we're going to be doing is eventually that it will work with any token.
Gotcha. Are there
Similar,
any limitations as
yeah.
far as kind of running that? Because of the fact that, any token to any token makes it a little bit tougher depending on the native asset? Or
There
would you do
absolutely
like a
are.
any token to native? Would that be how it was run?
It's actually it could be any token to any token because it all deals with the people who want to swap the tokens, right?
Mhm.
It's entirely up to them. There's going to be some type of uh, you know how Uniswap has their list of tokens, and
Mhm.
or any swap for that matter have the list of tokens that, but then you can import a token that's unknown. There's going to have to be a process like that. But it's swapped between two people, and it could really be any tokens, and it's up to the two people to decide what the currencies are on either end.
Gotcha. So it'd have to be some kind of display of like a, "Hey, this is the contract address for this," right? Because otherwise.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. No, you,
Awesome.
you
Very,
got
very
it. So
interesting.
yeah. So to give you a really quick run through, so what happens is you first put in what happens is you have to have the agreed amount or the agreed amounts that one person says, I'm going to pay this token this amount, and another person says, I'm going to pay that token in this amount, and then we're going to swap them. So you have to have the agreement of that before you actually do the swap. And then what happens is you would send, when the agreement is made, you one person or both people, they send the tokens to us, and we work as the intermediary, where we don't send the tokens to the other person until that we've received their balance as well. And if we receive both their balances, then we actually do the swap, and it shows up in their wallets.
Gotcha. Is there a way for a person to withdraw their funds if they rescind that offer? Like if it's like, "Hey, we'll do it for
Uh,
today," and then something changes?
yeah, it's up until if the swap has actually happened, you can't undo it.
Mhm.
But if you've actually sent the money there and the other person hasn't sent it, you can still
Yeah.
rescind it up until that time.
Gotcha. So, like, if they had, put their money on the platform and like, "Hey, send this to this address, ready to go. A day passes and like I guess they're not showing up. They can easily just get the funds back. Is
Yeah,
what I'm
absolutely.
hearing. Okay. Awesome. Yeah, it's super, super interesting. I really, really like that actually. I might be missing some details because I know this is not
Yeah, but
developed just yet, but the idea of it.
yeah, it's really for you to you know, trade crypto with your friends and buddies without having the worry of one of them ripping you off.
Yeah. Do you put in, would it be an open marketplace similar to OpenSea, or would it be something where you could find, X wallet addresses deal and go and take them up on that offer? Like, let's say you had a predetermined deal with somebody.
That yeah, as the solution matures, that's going to be available where you're going to say, hey, I have so many, I have, like, again, we'll just use the example. I have 1 Bitcoin and I'm looking for 1,000. I'm looking for 1,000,000 Bloom for my 1 Bitcoin. Right? Is
Mhm.
anybody willing to trade with me? There will be that type of marketplace as the solution matures. Right?
Gotcha.
So they're just simple open requests.
Gotcha. That is interesting. I feel like it's going to serve a much more practical use for individuals that are either one working like project leads or massive whales that don't want to destroy the price, right? Would there be some
Yeah,
kind of option for an OTC over time? Like, hey, I'm going to leave it here. People can take me up on half the offer if they come in. Or would it be a single individual needing to fill the whole order?
I mean, you're going through the thought process exactly as we went through it, so it's perfect. Uh, um, yeah, you know what? It can absolutely be something that's over time, where you're going to say, I have this
Interesting.
many, and if I need 4 swaps to come up with my total, well, then you know what? I can eventually have it to 4. It's all about what the people agree to at the end of the day. Right.
Gotcha.
And this really came to about while I was working on some tokens and the need to we have a whale that wants to sell and we would rather buy him or her out from the treasury rather than them having them impact the market. So you get to this point where you have these whale swaps going on, and it was always a question of, okay, who's going to send who first, and you got into these race conditions, right? And it's
Hmm.
really just a solution to resolve those race conditions, right?
Yeah. Yeah, it's a very interesting concept. I'm surprised that it has not become more popular until now that you bring it up. I could see value being provided there to a
Yeah,
certain number of individuals.
yeah, and it's just a matter of at the end of the day, if you want to control your whales, I shouldn't say control. If you want to have impact on your whales, this is the way that you can do that and help control your price without having concerns about trust.
Hmm.
Right? So I would see the way that I see it is that almost any token owner will want a solution like this, and it has to be easy, it has to be effective, it has to work, and it's got to be trustless in that manner that you don't have to trust the other person because you know that the solution is going to handle all of the cases.
Yeah, that makes sense. Makes sense.
Yeah,
Is as far
go
as
ahead.
the rest of the products go, so we've fleshed this one out. Like I understand fully what you guys are developing there. Can you elaborate a little bit on the other product that you had mentioned?
Well, so right now we have there's the 3 products. There's
Hmm.
the OTC swap, the metric solution, and then the governance solution, right? And then we're looking at another one is a whale cell solution, and this one's pretty simple. It's actually it's now morphed into a DCA in or DCA out solution. So DCA is dollar cost averaging, where what you're doing is buying over a period of time,
Hmm.
right, or selling over a period of time. Just for those who are not familiar with the term DCA, but the DCA or dollar cost averaging, what we're going to be doing is building a solution that will automatically do the DCA in or DCA out for you,
Yeah, very, very
right?
interesting.
So
Just making
again,
it
and that's
easy.
just, yeah, it makes it easy because when I want to DCA into a project or something like that, I think, okay, I'm going to buy once every day and a half. If it hits these particular percentages, then I want to buy. It's really just a way of doing some of the. It's a different approach to the stop losses or those types of things that you'd see in other products, such as like some of the other swaps allow you. But the DCA in, DCA out is really just a tool to help people make more money.
Gotcha. Gotcha. Yeah, I like it. I like it. It's interesting. I think a lot of there are some centralized exchanges that allow that, but it would be very cool to be able to utilize a DEX and have an automatic DCA. I don't know how that would work on the back end. There'd probably be some pretty wild perms you'd have to give a bot to be able to do that. But maybe not. Maybe not. Yeah, from my understanding, you'd essentially have to enable it to spend unlimited amount of that token, right? Whether it's USDC or some kind of other
Yeah,
asset.
you would have to make sure that it's pre-approved,
Yeah,
right? And you
yeah,
withhold the approval for a length of time. So yeah, we have one hardcore blockchain developer, and in talks with him, he believes that it can be done.
gotcha. Yeah, I definitely could see it being done, but that is interesting. I like it. There's a lot of fees that come on to some of the DCAs. I know for a couple of the different centralized exchanges, which is just unfortunate. But if it was just like a 1 penny gas fee, it might be a little bit different, a little bit easier for people.
Well, yeah, and that's what we're looking at doing, is that making the percentages on it very small.
Hmm.
For the majority of these solutions, making the percentages on it very small, and then if you're a holder of Bloom, you promote the use of these tools because you want other people to use them, because at the end of the day, you're going to be making money off of it,
Hmm.
right? That's
Yeah.
how it all comes around, circles back. It's that we're really doing product development, DeFi product development, and where the holders benefit from any money we make.
Yeah, I like the thought there. It's definitely interesting. And so onto the governance solution real quick. Can you touch up a little bit on how that would be a product that you guys are developing?
Oh,
Like how would
yeah. How would we make money off of that?
yeah.
Yeah, that's a good question. That's something that we would have to license to other tokens themselves, or um, and this is one thing that I'm not afraid of, is that if it's such a good solution and if it works, it's going to set a stage for people to say, "Hey, look, this is the common ground that, sorry, this is the new world in terms of governance, that the new standard and governance that should be followed." And these people at Bloom created it. And if we have to give the solution away for free, but what it does is generate lots and lots of positive press for us, I'm okay with that as well,
Hmm.
right?
Gotcha.
So we're going to see how to monetize that solution is something that I would license it directly to token projects, and say, give us X amount of your token per month, and you can use this solution. And then we'll manage in the treasury how to make money from that.
Hmm.
So, Chris, if you don't mind, there's a couple things I'd like to mention
Yeah, let's
as
get
we're
into
rolling
it.
out. So we are in currently a seed launch phase, and we're actually launching on December 1st. So our launch will be on December 1st. We're going to be running it on BNB, and the one of the things that we're doing is that on November 15th, so coming up really soon, we're going to have founders bonds available to be purchased. So a founder bond includes an NFT, and the NFT can be used for, in the future, what we have uh, some planned campaigns where there's going to be discounts on those campaigns, and there's going to be an uplift on the amount of the dividend that you receive if you have one of these NFTs. There could be an uplift. It all depends on how much we have and what we decide upon. But the idea is that there's 100 founders, so it's limited to 100 separate founder spots, and these founders will also be given there's a founders lounge where only the original 100 purchasers will sit there and receive information on a more timely basis before we get it out to the larger crowds. So it's kind of an elite or VIP member service that we're going to be providing. With that said, there's also builders bonds available, and the builders bonds don't include an NFT, but they also have some benefits tied to that as well. But I just wanted to mention that the founders and builders bonds are going on sale on November 15th, and we're planned for our full launch on December 1st. But if you go to bloom.trustgarden.com today, you can be able to see that you're still actually able to buy what we call BL Seed, which is our seed launch to help raise some capital into the treasury. So we're really migrating as our launch. What it is we're migrating from our BLC to our full-blown Bloom. I just wanted to get that sales pitch out there, Chris. Thank you.
Gotcha. Yeah, of course. So as far as can you reiterate the builder side of things? I know you touched up on, is that the same as the seed, or is that completely different?
Yeah, no, the builders bonds the founders and builders bonds are a little bit different from the seed because there's going to be advantages to each one of them that you purchase, right? So the seed holders at this time are going to get a small advantage that they get a 10% uplift on the migration. So there's a 10% bonus if you're a holder, but it doesn't include one of the NFTs that you're going to be getting if you're a bond buyer.
Gotcha. Okay, very interesting. So it's just kind of pick your style and move forward with it.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's the founders bond are $1,000 a piece, and the builders bonds are $500 a piece. So if you don't want to invest 1,000, but you can scrape up 500 after you sell all of your FTT, and
I don't. You must have had a massive bag of FTT for that to add up.
That's a good point. But if you can scrape together 500, then the builders bonds for you, right? If you can scrape together 1,000, that's where we get the founders. But we always joke around that it's like, imagine that we were releasing this in the bull run. It would be a totally different experience,
For sure.
It's just been amazing in terms of how many people have even lost interest and just dropped out completely.
Yeah, that definitely makes sense. I can see that. Something kind of interesting. Just got to check because you mentioned it. FTT is actually pumped a decent amount today. So,
well, look at that.
Very interesting. Yeah, it's up almost 10%.
That's for people that want to kill the short sellers. Right.
That is interesting. Most likely. Yeah, most likely.
You never know what's going on. Funny world.
That's just funny to me. Yeah. I just thought it was a kind of comical thing. Is there anything that we haven't touched up on as far as Bloom goes? What you guys are doing? Maybe some details on some other product or something. Maybe there's like a hidden fourth product that's pre-released so far.
I wish that was the case, but we've touched upon all of the major areas, and Chris, I really have to thank you for that, because the questions, very good questions, very well run AMA. I really have to thank you for the opportunity. The hours gone by rather quickly, which is always a good sign, right? So thank you for all of that. I think we're good in terms of mentioning anything.
Awesome. And then if you wouldn't mind dropping a link in the AMA questions to your Discord, that would be really, really awesome. Everyone go ahead, check it out. And also just be on the lookout. We'll have some more Bloom news posted as time goes. But remember, big dates. Was it the 14th? Is that correct?
15th.
15th. And then
And then
when?
December 1st.
Yes. Awesome. Easy numbers to remember. Cool. So 15th and December 1st as those big numbers. But I really appreciate you guys. And that giveaway is going to the best question asked. If you want to go ahead and pick that real quick, Patrick, you can look through those questions, or we can do a random number generator too. Anybody that asks those questions.
How about we do it random?
Okay. Cool. Let's see. Let me go get everyone's names real quick and do this. Let's see. We'll do it live today since we got a couple minutes to run this thing. But it has been really good chatting about it. I think you guys have a very interesting product line that I'm excited to see how all that works out, because I could see a lot of different things coming up.
There's the way that I look into this is that this is the way that you do startup businesses, and that when we initially talk, it's like lots of things are kind of in wireframes, and we're getting there. But I envision a time when we're a year or two down the road and we actually have some of the products developed and released and we're cooking. That's when there's, people are going to be able to really see the value proposition in terms of what we're pushing here. So this is really, I'm involved in another project like this. It was called Echo, where the team said, you know what, we're going to be developing a product and then we're going to release it. And it's been a year so far, and they're still just developing the product, which is fine by me because it's a long-term investment. I realize that, and I realize that the potential for the upsell is a lot greater as the time goes by. So we're in a unique position in DeFi that we're not asking for you to make money right away, right?
Yeah. I think that you guys are taking a much safer approach to that side of things. You're not promising anything right away. It's really a long-term play that is reliant on the success of the business. So I like the fact that you guys are integrating crypto into more of the traditional business world, which just makes a lot more sense. But to some people it might not, and that's totally fine. But in my brain, that makes a little bit more sense. But congrats, Endgamer. You won the giveaway. So create a ticket if you wouldn't mind. Send us the wallet address and we can get that all sorted. But Patrick, it was really, really great having you on. I enjoyed the conversations, going all the way through a little bit of the markets, a little bit what Bloom's doing, and all the things that you've done, or a little bit what you guys have done, or you've done in the past, and then all the things that Bloom is doing, building the products, all that kind of stuff. I'm excited for that marketplace that you have. I think that's the thing that I was like, okay, this is very, very interesting. I'd like to see how this all plays out, but I'll be looking to stay in touch, and I'm sure we'll chat soon.
Thanks, Chris. Thank you for a very well done AMA, and I really appreciate the opportunity.
Thanks. Thank you. But have a wonderful day. We'll catch you soon.
All right. All the best. Take care.